Alright, response video to Antakantavad. I'll probably give up on this fairly shortly. I mean, he doesn't respond to anything. He just calls everything a straw man argument. He ignores every argument made by everyone else, and so what's the point? There's no real conversation to be had. So anyway, it's just, this is garbage as philosophy. This is just psychobabble.
I fully agree that the intuitive side of our nature needs to be harnessed by the rational side, and vice.
Look, to use the word intuitive when what you're really saying, the feeling side, okay? I mean, if you're talking about the fact that we feel, and you're going to say that every feeling is an intuition, I just call bullshit. I mean, it's just not the right use of the word. Intuition traditionally has to do with, yes, native, immediate reactions, visceral, gut, short-sighted, the less thought out, and then you have other reactions that are more thought out. So let's say the first impression the brain creates, it makes models. It makes the simple outline drawing, and then it makes the more detailed drawings, okay? And they're all inside of our head. But initially what we see is the outline. We see red, blue. We see, black, white. We see, we have an emotional reaction, and that emotional reaction is tempered as our experience with something is extended. The emotional reaction tempers. It evolves through our grabbing the reservoir of our experience and knowledge. And so the immediate reaction to snake for me is still snake. It's a snake. Oh, it's a snake. And then I'll figure out, is it poisonous or not poisonous? Is it, does it have fangs? Does it not have fangs? These are the things that will temper that reaction and change my visceral reaction, which is whap it with a fucking club, to, no, it's just a nice little snake. Maybe I'll even pick it up. And that's the progression we go through as we better understand a circumstance. So just as our immediate reaction could be sympathy for somebody who's crying on a street corner, but then we find out, well, they're a drunk and they just ran over, little kids in a playground. And so the context changes, our reaction changes, because our understanding changes. And I don't want to go into a whole preachy thing here, but there's really no point in attempting communication with people. And all these people are just frauds, because they don't have a little bit of respect for language and words. There's just no point in communicating if you're going to take a word like intuitive and say that what it really means is any feeling you ever have. That's just bogus.
First, but let's leave that for the moment. What's interesting is that some people seem to mistake a negative view of the universe or of life or the human condition or whatever.
Yeah, a negative view. So again, you're using words to just say something other than what's being stated, okay? They have a negative theory of life experience. They've drawn a different conclusion than the common average human being, maybe. Some other way to describe this thing than to say view, again, turning it into a sense perception rather than a perception acquired through long experience. And there's huge differences. There's a huge difference in context between the immediate reaction and the reaction you learn over time.
Existence. As somehow rational and non-intuitive. I don't know. It's very strange to hear that said, because
whatever. It's very strange. It's very strange. What, that people don't have just all knee-jerk reactions? You mean that they actually can sit there and balance things, contemplate? I mean, where's contemplation fit into this? Where you spend your life actually contemplating. What does it mean? What does it all end up with? What is the end game? What is my psychological stake in the race? Am I a biased or an unbiased observer? I mean, can't have conversation in that context where all the conversation has to be reduced to some sort of stupid thing like, are you hungry or are you not hungry? It's so irritating. We can't talk about the quality of food or whether it's nutritious or how many calories it has in it. We just have to say, I'm hungry or I'm not hungry, and then have the conversation in that context, and have no discussion whatsoever about any technical details whatsoever, because everything has to be some sort of visceral, crude reaction. Come on, this is nonsense.
You look at people who have a particularly negative view of the value of existence or the morality of doing things in this world or perpetuating this world.
Yeah, the morality of making a decision like procreation. That's right, you're going to create. So you're going to take your perception of purpose and function and say, I'm going to impose it on somebody. Well, where did you get the authority to do that? Oh, that's right, nature gave you hardware that enables you to use it. Does that mean you're competent or qualified? Does that mean that your decision is outside the boundaries of somebody else's scrutiny? I don't think any of that's true. So, again, this is all just fail.
There's a great deal of value judgments that get placed on the ethicity of doing that. That's bad, that's wrong, that's evil.
Yeah, whatever. That's not as simplistic as the argument is, right? The argument has all these layers to it. I mean, there's the asymmetry argument, and then there's the argument from imposition, because it's clearly, there's no way to avoid it. You don't get consent to play your little game, to conduct your little experiment, and there's a risk involved. It's obvious and right there in your face, and you're assigning the risk on something else, and you ought to have some sort of qualifications to do that. And if you don't have any intrinsic qualifications, like you can show me your God card, well, then you should be able to provide some sort of reason-based explanation besides, I'm just a selfish fuck and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I feel like. That's really not good enough. And because somebody might ask you to produce a little bit more than that, I don't think they've crossed some sort of line of violating some rule of the universe because they passed judgment on a monkey's judgment.
When you read cosmic horror, Mr. Ligotti, Mr. Lovecraft, full of intuitive hints that this universe is horrible.
Well, who cares? Again, you're just going to drop names, one side or the other side. Why don't you make an argument instead of just dropping names?
This is all intuitive, too. You can't just say intuitive is what keeps the world horrible, because the whole view that life is horrible or that there's an asymmetry here is an intuitive one.
Well, that's your accusation. So you're sitting there. You'll tell other people they can't define the truth. They can't establish a truth. They can't state a truth. Yet you can. What is this grotesque hypocrisy that you're constantly guilty of? Nobody else can pass judgments about what the truth are except for you. I mean, it's just preposterous. I say you're fucking wrong. Okay, period.
Take the intuitive out of things, and the universe just is. It's neither good nor bad.
Again, says you. So this is just more of this Nietzsche nihilist nonsense, okay, where somehow it's all some subjective opinion. So there's some subjective, reasonable opinion that can say the rape is okay, or the Holocaust is okay, or I can have my nuclear power plant and I can put it right on the border and I can expose a bunch of other people to the potential risk of my failure. Right? The wind is all downwind. They have all the risk, I have all the benefit. And that's somehow just a subjective perception if somebody says, no, that's insanely unfair and stupid. No, it's not a subjective impression, it's a fact.
It's just something that's happening.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, this is something that's happening. That's exactly right. It can either happen well or it can happen badly. We have the fact is how what kind of ideas win in this stupid conflict and these arguments will decide whether we live in a civilized, sane world or we live in some insane world where everybody just keeps thinking their universe is universing and don't think they have to take responsibility and be accountable for their participation. That somehow it's none of their fault. I mean, it's just grotesque. Have penis, will violate. Not my fault. I didn't invent it. I mean, it's just bullshit.
You want to place on anything ever is intuitive.
Yeah, whatever. It's not intuitive. That's not the appropriate use of the word. Yes, we feel our way into making value judgments. They have to be created in models in our brain. So if I was to say the first model our brain creates is a crude, hard, emotional feeling model. And then there's another model it makes that's an interpretation of those feelings that puts labels on them that we understand, cognitive labels of good, bad, right, wrong, efficient, inefficient. These labels don't have any harsh emotion tied to them. They're not viscerally painful or visually meaningful, but they are meaningful to the cognitive knowledge. So now we can know that something is wrong without having to feel its wrongness. We don't have to smell the bad odor. We don't have to do all this other stuff. We can just know it as a piece of knowledge that something is good or bad or attractive or repulsive, as a statement of fact in a knowledge base. And so it's no longer intuitive anymore. It's conclusive. It's been a conclusion has been drawn that something falls on one side of a fence or the other side. The side that says, yes, let's have more of that, or the side that says, let's avoid that. So polio gets thrown on the side of the fence that says, well, we can do without that. That's not much fun. And, whatever, cream-filled cupcakes on the other side.
There's really no way out of that trap.
Says you, again, when you're pompous, arrogant, snarky, snidely little smile like you know something, like you're the little Cheshire cat or some other bullshit, and you explain it with nothing, and you just abuse language to make the statement. Your declarations of this is the truth, the universe is neutral, unless there's some witness around to say it means something. Yeah, it's just nonsense. The values created by the feeling entity. Anything that feels in the universe is creating value, and you can't stop it with your opinion. Your opinion doesn't stop it. If it's suffering and it's in pain, that value is being generated, and all your thoughts of it doesn't matter doesn't undo the fact that it fucking matters. And these nihilists just suck. I mean, really, did you really go for this? Like I saw Do in the Morning left a comment on this video. You go along with this nihilist shit? Is that really how you think too? It doesn't matter. You can just make up if your opinion says it doesn't matter that I just ran over a bunny rabbit in the car or something, that all of a sudden I can just say it didn't happen. I can just pretend it doesn't exist. This guy, I'll tell you, because the Holocaust is over, that it didn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's meaningless because it's in the past. Fuck. These people just suck.